Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. Nidhi Darbari, on My Education Treasure, and today I am going to explain about the principles of teaching. The principles of teaching. The teaching profession needs blood, sweat, and tears to make it a successful one. It demands expertise to teach a subject. The different stages of teaching will not help a teacher to make his lesson successful, but he needs the help of different principles of teaching to motivate the students to make teaching effective. The principles of teaching have been divided into two: the general principles and the psychological principles. The general principles of teaching are also called as main principles. They have evolved from tradition, general experience, and researches. The main general principles are: principle of definiteness of objectives. A teacher should first fix his objectives related to the subject he teaches. Without definiteness of objectives, the teacher may go astray and the teaching does not remain a purposeful activity and the students may deviate from the normal path. He selects the material and methods on the basis of definite objectives. Objectives vary from subject to subject and from time to time. The next principle is of planning. Behind every success lies the proper planning. An author, before writing a book, makes plan to complete his work successfully. Same is the case with the teaching profession. A teacher should always plan his lesson before delivering it. Planning involves selection, division, and revision of the content. The next principle is of selection. Content is selected considering the larger objectives of education. There may be many irrelevant material in a lesson which are not useful for students. So teachers should select only that part of the subject matter which matches the objectives and are meaningful for the students. Principle of model representation. We have seen that students imitate the teacher's personality, dress, style, action, etc. A teacher should be a model in his behavior which affects the personality of the students. His behavior should reflect the regularity, punctuality, honesty, truthfulness, sincerity, etc. Principle of activity. Knowledge which is obtained by the involvement of activity is never forgotten. The learning which takes place through self activities becomes more effective, vivid, and remains in long term memory. The learning process becomes easy and quicker when students involve their heads and hands together. This principle may be applied at all stages in the school. Activities are basically of two types: physical and mental. Both these activities are important in teaching. However, physical activities are preferred to mental ones because acquisition of knowledge is already concerned with mental activities. An example of this is we forget a story read in a book after 1 or 2 years, but we do not forget the cycling after we have learnt it once. The reason is that the activity is involved in the second type of knowledge. So, if a teacher wants to make a knowledge fixed into the minds of the students, he must supplement the theoretical knowledge with the practical one. Montessori method, project method, kindergarten method, problem solving method are based on the principle of learning by doing. Principle of individual differences. A teacher has to satisfy four groups of students by his teaching: superior students, weak students, average students, and problem students. Every student differs from another in interest, aptitude, abilities, aims, aspirations, and intelligence. A good teacher should consider the principle of individual differences and satisfy every student by using different methods and strategies. Principle of correlation, linking with actual life and other subjects. Every child lives in his own world and takes interest in those activities which have a direct link with their lives. This enables him to learn at a faster rate and with ease. Teaching should aim to make the life of student happy and successful. Whatever the teacher teaches them should be related with their actual life situations directly or indirectly. Hence, whatever they achieve in one field should be correlated with other fields. For example, learning of mathematics should help them in solving the numerical problems of physics or chemistry. Principles of democracy. The main motto of our educational system is to provide equal opportunities of education to all sections of society, Hindus or Muslims, blacks or whites, low status or high status, lower caste or upper caste. The successful teaching occurs in the environment where everyone is treated on equal grounds. A teacher should keep the principle of democracy in class by giving full opportunities to students to develop their self thinking and self expression by respecting their personalities. Principle of division. If a teacher teaches a lesson by dividing it into different natural parts, his presentation will be effective and teacher will synthesize the units in logical sequence. The teacher should keep in mind that every unit of the lesson should be complete in itself and should be able to arouse curiosity for learning of the next unit. This makes the whole lesson easy and systematic for students. Principle of progressiveness. Every person is endowed with some basic attitudes, interests, ideals, skills, abilities, instincts, desires, sentiments, etc. A good teacher is concerned with the progress of children in the all-round development of his personality. The different strategies help a teacher to make improvement in his teaching. Principle of interest. A teacher should teach in the class only when students take interest in it, and if this interest does not exist, it should be first created by the teacher. Interest in learning can be created in the class by following ways: by telling the student the aim of life, how useful they are for the country, developing curiosity of learning, clarifying the objectives of the lesson, teaching the content by relating it with their daily life situations, following the principles of learning by doing, and motivating, establishing clear-cut relations between content, aims, and students by using proper material aids and technology. The psychological principles are evolved by taking into account the psychological makeup of the student. In this, the first one is the principle of motivation. The success of teaching learning process depends upon the motivation of both teacher and students towards the content. Motivation creates interest among students in order to make the teaching learning process an effective and fruitful activity. Unless the students are motivated, they will not show interest towards the content. Everything becomes purposeful when interests are aroused among the students. Children feel motivated for the things which are connected with their natural activity like love, play, and activity. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give the like to the video to motivate me, share it for others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. The next principle is of repetition. Long-term memory mainly depends upon the repetition of the learned material. A teacher at the pre-active stage of teaching divides his content into meaningful units on the basis of logical and psychological foundations. A teacher should repeat several times what he teaches in the class so that the students are able to grasp and understand the content well. A teacher who makes use of exercise of like revision, recapitulation, application, or what has been taught to the students can teach the students efficiently. A teacher may use this principle by giving home assignments also to the students. The next principle is of feedback and reinforcement. Reinforcement plays an important role in the success of teaching learning process. To make teaching effective, a teacher should make use of reinforcement. The knowledge of results should be given to students. Through feedback, the teacher weighs himself as well as students. It is the duty of the teacher to encourage the students who pose a question regarding the topic. If the teacher discourages them, their power of thinking will stop automatically. The next principle is of variety. The principle of variety brings life in the classroom environment. A teacher who always teaches by using the same method and same language does not achieve success in his profession. For teaching, different methods at different times may be used. For example, the teacher wants to test the student's learning of the material. He should use different techniques like oral, written, test, etc. Principle of fostering creativity. Cramming power hinders the creative power of an individual. Those students who satisfy their teachers by means of cramming gets positive reinforcement in the form of praise, grades, medals, awards, etc. But the future of a nation depends on creative persons and not on the crammers. So a teacher should encourage the creative students. The next principle is of remedial teaching. It is seen that only those students shun the classes who are educationally backward. A good teacher is one who diagnoses his faults of teaching by applying standardized tests and adopts remedial measures. The next principle is of sympathy and kindness. The congenial environment in a classroom can be created by means of kindness and sympathetic attitude. Students who love those people who show kindness and sympathy towards interest and needs of the students. He should respect their feelings. Scolding develops hatred among the students towards the teachers. The teacher should show his sympathy and kindness toward those students who remain isolated and rejected in the schools. Those teachers who are sympathetic to their students can easily motivate their students for learning. If a teacher develops a feeling in his students that there is none more sympathetic to them than him, the teacher will always be cooperated by his students. Principle of recreation. When a teacher talks continuously like a machine in the classroom without any recreation, its results come out in negative. The attention of students diverts after 10 to 15 minutes or so. By means of recreation, he may catch their attention towards the topic. Fatigue caused by continuous learning is ended by recreation. It removes the dullness of the class and the teaching becomes effective. The last principle is of providing training to senses. Senses, as you know, are the gateways of knowledge. It is the duty of the teacher to provide proper training to their senses. An individual observes, experiments, identifies, discriminates, and generalizes on the basic power of proper functioning of these senses. Field trips, outgoings, picnics help the students in seeing things and thus get first-hand information which is more vivid. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video and don't forget to subscribe.